Based on a true story, in 1978 New Jersey, the movie opens up to a little boy trying to solve some mathematical problems. We can see that this little boy has a serious passion for science. Just then, his father, Skeet, pulls up to the house, and he rushes out to go meet his father. The little boy, identified as Sean, is excited to see his father as he wholeheartedly embraces him. Just as they continue their bonding ritual, Sean's mother and Skeet's ex-wife, Jackie, come over to meet them. She appreciates Skeet for taking time to spend with his son, as they plan on going to see a game. Skeet tells her that they plan on going to Conway Island since Sean always loved talking about the beach, but his car wouldn't even last 10 minutes on the road. He asks to use her father's car, but she refuses, saying he is planning on going to church with it. So Skeet decides to take Sean to the park instead. On their way to watch the game, they analyze the previous games as Sean gives a detailed analytical statistics on the average point per game. Skeet is impressed that his 7-year-old son is even way smarter than him. Unfortunately, his car suddenly breaks down. Skeet tells Sean that they would have to walk because of this situation. Just then, he causes a distraction and tells Sean to leave the car. He does this to distract Sean as he takes out a gun from the car's board, which he hides in his pocket. Getting to his house, they meet a neighbor, an old man named Mr. Irving, who Sean also calls Mr. Gaskins, listening to the game via a radio. Skeet calls out to his brother Carl and tells him to bring down some beers so they can listen to the game together. They listen to the game with more neighbors. Just then, Mickey comes around and Skeet and Carl walk over to him. Skeet sneakily gives Mickey some money and asks him to look after his car. Mickey agrees and heads back, refusing to stay for a drink. Skeet heads over to Sean and drops a piece of advice for him. He tells him that if he looked out for people, people would look out for him. Two women who we eventually know as Stella and Charlene walk out of the building. She notices Sean and asks Skeet if he is his son. Skeet replies in affirmation, and she compliments Sean's good looks. Skeet tells her that she's supposed to say that he got his looks from him, and she responds in a sassy tone, saying she knows exactly what she's supposed to say. Her response causes laughter among the small crowd. Another woman comes over to meet the two sisters. She appears drunk, and Stella questions her drinking habit. They invite Skeet to join them, but he declines. The women walk away as Sean stares at them. Skeet calls his attention and advises him yet again not to mess up where he eats. This causes laughter among the crowd. The next scene opens up to the sounds of gunshots coming from an apartment. Just then, a man can be seen running away from the affected building. The scene switches to a phone ringing in Sean's house, and a radio reports the murder of Charlene and Stella Moore. When Sean takes the call, we get to find out that his dad has been locked up for the murder of the two girls. Skeet, who is at the other side of the phone booth, tries to convince his son that he didn't murder the sisters and assures him that all will be okay. Jackie asks about the entire legal process, and Skeet expresses his confusion and dismay. He tells his wife that the process could be a long one. In the courtroom, Skeet is found guilty of the murder of the two sisters. This pronouncement is met with cheering from the grieving family. Skeet, however, maintains innocence, stating that he didn't even know why he was accused and identified as the murderer. In the next scene, we see Sean sitting on the porch of his home, lost in his imagination. His mom and her parents talk about his dad's sentence. Jackie's dad says that nothing could be done to help Skeet's case, but he expressed gratitude to the fact that he was sentenced to life imprisonment and not given a death sentence. Sean's mother suggests that she'll have to change Sean to a private school. She explains that the other schools would see Sean as the son of a convict and fears that it would affect his self-esteem. She leaves her parents to see Sean, who snaps out of his imagination at the sound of his mom lighting a cigarette. He asks his mom how they'll get his father out, but his mom tells him to worry more about his performance in school, as that would be the only thing that would make her and his father happy. She calls him to herself and tells him to take up his other name Robert instead of Sean so that he wouldn't be identified as the son of a convict. To this, Sean hugs her to show his understanding. The next scene opens to a teenage Sean dressed with some of his high school mates at St. Benedict's High School. Sean gets to perform excellently in sports, science, and academics. One of Sean's friends, Tavares, however, performs badly in school, but Sean assures him of getting his grades up through their combined study. Sean still tries to get his father out of prison. He goes through different newspapers in his room, which he clears when his mother enters his room. His mom had come to ask him to do some calculations on their bills. She expresses her displeasure with his pursuance of the case and admonishes him to take his academics more seriously. He promises her that he'll surely take care of her. Sean's love for science makes him view his father's case from a scientific perspective. He goes around gathering evidence by taking pictures that could help his father's case. He informs his father of a loophole he finds in his case and gives him hope of getting out of prison because of the Sixth Amendment law. Skeet is glad and reminds him of what Old Man Irving said about him being the savior of the neighborhood. Sean and his friends take up menial jobs of clearing up leaves in people's compounds in the neighborhood. The money he gets from this, he gives to his mother for their upkeep. The next scene opens to a courtroom where Mr. Douglas' case has been reviewed again with adult Sean. The judge admits that Mr. Irving's demise could have helped Skeet's case, and going by the provision of the Sixth Amendment, dismisses Skeet's case. This pronouncement springs up great joy and happiness in Skeet as he hugs his brother Carl and his son Sean. The judge adds that Skeet's freedom is limited to 30 days at his persecutors' appeal for the case. They celebrate at Sean's mother's house. Jackie comes home and sees Skeet in her house. She isn't impressed with the development of things, although she congratulates him but explains that Sean is juggling 3 jobs together with his academics, asking if he was going to beat his 4th job. She expresses how difficult it could be for Sean as she walks out. We see Sean studying in his room as his mother walks to get the mail. She reads about Sean's acceptance into Yale University and excitedly calls out to Sean to break the joyous news. Sean, his mother, and his father sit around a table where they jubilate on the news. With tears of joy, Jackie explains that she can't believe the reality of him getting into an Ivy League school. Sean says that he could get into another school not far from where they live, which his mom disapproves of, and tells him he'll be going to the Ivy League as she doesn't need his help in the house. She heads to go get a ringing phone which is meant for Skeet. Skeet's countenances change as he ends the call. He explains to Sean that the prosecutors have made the appeal and he will be back in prison in the next week. He slams his fist to the table in anger. Sean tries to calm him down and promises to get him out of prison. In the next scene, we see Sean and Skeet speaking with 2 men and Uncle Carl. They celebrate and Skeet brags about his son's achievement. As they head home, they pass through Skeet's old house. He goes in to greet Mickey, who now owns the house. Skeet explains to Sean how his dad acquired the house amidst racism and how he got duped by neighbors who refused to pay up their debts. He explained that Mickey was the one who cleared off his bad debts and also bought the house. He explains to him how his mother felt about the whole situation and added that he doesn't think anyone can go wrong when standing for their brothers. In the next scene, we see Sean packing up for school. At Yale, he makes a new friend, Jeff, who turns out to be his dorm mate. They discuss their classes, and we understand that Jeff is an English major while Sean majors in molecular biophysics and biochemistry. We see Sean running to answer a ringing phone that he doesn't want Jeff to hear. It's his dad. They talk briefly about Sean's school and his Skeet's hearing. Sean tells his father not to call him, but he would instead call him, explaining that he has a roommate and wouldn't want him to get involved in his business. Skeet angrily ends the call because he feels Sean is ashamed of him. We see Sean excel in school as he reads dedicatedly, performs well in sports, and works in the kitchen to help pay his tuition fees. Sean makes more friends, including Oswaldo, a guy who sells marijuana. They meet up at a location where they smoke cigarettes and weed and discuss about society and racism. Sean explains that he doesn't care about racism but only bothers about making things better for his people. Back at home, we see Sean with his family having a meal. They discuss his discipline and what he will be in future. He replies that he wants to be a professor, own his lab, and create cancer cures. This delights his grandparents. Sean goes to prison to inform his father of his next court hearing. His father, however, becomes impatient and anxious. He asks Sean to borrow some money from his school and rich friends from school, which Sean declines but is interpreted by his father as him being ashamed of him. The father yells at him angrily and reminds him of his promise to get him out of prison. Sean goes to visit his high school friends. They speak about their struggles, and one of his friends mentioned that he would drop out of school. Sean is dismayed by his statement and tells his friends about the Goldman and the real estate business. He speaks to them using scientific terms, to which they laugh as Tav calls him a nerd. However, Sean thinks deeply about the real estate as he looks at the abandoned buildings in his neighborhood. Back in school, Sean speaks to his teacher, Professor Durham. She states that she's impressed with one of Sean's assignments and asks him about his secret. He reveals that he got obsessed with the classes and educated himself further. He explains his desire to get better in the course and tells her that he's lagging in the practical areas of the course. She agrees to give him the job of working as a lab assistant to grad students, a job she doesn't ordinarily give to freshmen. Sean and his team of water polo athletes celebrate after a game. One of them approaches Sean and politely asks him if he knows where he could get some marijuana. Sean leads the team to the sacred location where his friends gather to smoke weed. They are not pleased with the arrival of the new guests, but with Sean's pep talk, they accept them and become comfortable as they share cigarettes and buy marijuana from Oswaldo. When the party is over, Oswaldo tells Sean that he made more money that day, but he doesn't need so much money because he works in the accounting department of his father's company, who is a contractor. He informs Sean of the dangers of selling weed in school and to new people if he isn't a known supplier, and how his color protects him from suspicion. Naya, another friend, chips into their conversation. She expressed her concerns about racism also as they conversed. Just as she leaves, Sean stares at her in admiration. It's obvious that he has feelings for her. Sean and Naya discuss about their fears and views about life. As they discuss, they smoke, dance, and eventually lean in to kiss. Back in the lab, Sean helps out with the equipment as he listens to Prof. Durham teach. While working on an assignment, he gets accosted by two white senior students and gets questioned by one about his presence in the lab. Sean replies that he was only doing an assignment, but goes further to ask his questioner about his research. He expressed his thoughts about his research, but also expressed how racist the man's comments to him were. Prof. Durham apologizes for the questioning and gives Sean a lab card pass to prevent further situations of racism, which he accepts gleefully. In the next scene, we see Sean awake in the night on a bed with Naya next to him. He gets up to light a cigar stick. Naya gets up with him and asks him about what is bothering him. He initially hesitates but gives in and explains to her about his friend who is serving a sentence in jail at home, and the responsibility of his freedom lies on his hands. He tells her of his dilemma of raising money to get his friend out of prison and messing up all he has worked for in Yale. We then see another court hearing for Skeet. The judge sides with the prosecutors and outturns Skeet's claim of an unfair trial. He sentences Skeet back to prison. Sean speaks to a white lawyer for legal assistance, and the lawyer assures him of helping his dad out of prison, however, for an expensive price. The lawyer tells Sean of his strategy, which causes him to question Sean about the assurance of his father's innocence. Sean speaks to his mother about his father's case and is dismayed when he finds out that his father had been violent with his mother. In his rage, he scatters his table and his pictorial evidence because for once it occurred to him that his dad could be guilty. In the next scene, Sean apologizes to Naya, his girlfriend, for lying to her about his friend being in prison and not telling her that it's his father. She forgives him and tells him she wants him to be happy, not just saddling himself with responsibilities that aren't his fault. Things, however, take an ugly turn when Sean's doormate receives Sean's dad's call from prison. In prison, Sean's dad informs him that he has been diagnosed with brain cancer. Sean is devastated and remains undefeated. He assures his father that he will take good care of him and get him out of prison. Sean gets a space from his friends, where he produces his marijuana using the school's laboratory equipment. Getting the approval of his friends, Sean sells the marijuana secretly in school and uses the money he gets from his sale to take care of his father's medication and legal bills. Sean, however, despite his illegal business, continues to perform excellently in class and informs his professor of his chosen research topic when he gets his PT. His professor is delighted and offers to give him some recommendations. There's, however, an argument between Sean and his girlfriend, Naya, who isn't happy with Sean's inappropriate business in school. Sean is soon caught taking lab equipment out of the school by his professor, who decides not to rat him out. At a house party, we see Sean smoking some weed. He gets dizzy and steps out to get some air. His roommate Jeff meets him outside and thanks him for being his roommate and helping his social awkwardness. After the party, unfortunately, the school security storms Sean's hostel to search him. Frantically, he screams at Tav, who was sleeping in the room, to help him hide the evidence. He tells Jeff to stall the security officer to buy them more time. This strategy works as nothing is found on Sean. However, he explains to his girlfriend that the school permitted him to graduate, but his professor took back her recommendation. Sean tells his girlfriend that he misses her and apologizes for his recent behaviors. He asks that they get back together, but she replies that she'll be leaving the school after graduation to help her mother with her angio. Back at home in a hospital, Sean, torn by uncertainty and the need to know, asks his father if truly he is guilty of the murders as charged. His dad, disappointed and angry, yells at him to leave the room, which he does angrily. In the next scene, we get to find out that Sean's father had died from his illness. He has been buried as Sean mourns his father because they ended up things on bad terms. After graduation, Sean decides to set up a real estate business. He asks for the assistance of his dorm mate Oswaldo, who agrees to help him. Sean, moreover, takes up a teaching job in his high school in order to raise money for his business and to cater for his family. His mother, however, still wants him to continue his education and get his PT. Unfortunately, the market starts to move badly for Sean's business as he begins to experience losses in his real estate business. He visits his dad's old house, which had been occupied by a nice black man and his wife. The man revealed to Sean that his father was innocent and only got framed by the police to cover up their dirty work. They tell him that his mother is also aware, and on confronting his mother, she tells him that she is only protecting him. He leaves the house angrily and goes to his father's gravesite where he buries a picture of his dad while sobbing softly. The decline in profits forces Sean to go back to selling weed in the neighborhood. He asks for his doormate's assistance, who agrees to loan him some money but not engage in his dirty business. He sells drugs secretly, but this is bad business because drugs are only sold by the major gangsters in the neighborhood. He gives the money to Tigvari to help him raise his son and Carter for his family. One of his buyers, Kamar, suspects and questions him, and unfortunately leads one of the gang members to his apartment where Sean is shot dead, trying to escape. At the end of the movie, we see Sean's mother, girlfriend, and teacher reminiscing about him. Sean's mother remembers him as a young boy sitting out of the house pouch, pretending to be at a beach when the rain falls and the cars drop into potholes. The movie closes with the narrator reading out his application letter to be accepted as a PhD student. This letter tells his story. The end. If you enjoyed this recap, please leave a like and subscribe.